This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Tina Coleman. For the first time, we're going to talk about a couple things today about your book. We're going to talk about like how Gen X women can reinvent themselves, and I want to welcome you to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's just interesting to talk to people from around the world, and you're not in the U.S. right now, so that's we're talking to somebody from around the world today. And it's just cool the technology allows us to talk to people in different spaces, and that's what we love about podcasting. But one of the things we ask before we get to the heart of your story, we ask every guest a couple questions. What motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
Traveling motivates me. I love traveling. I love the freedom. It is my greatest joy. So, traveling to other countries and meeting new people is one of the things I absolutely love. And I love helping people. I do. I was a massage therapist for 20 years. I'm a Virgo. I love helping people. I love being of service. So, being a coach and author and starting my speaking career, like it's just something I want to do to let people know that if I can change my life, they can too.
Hmm. I think it's real important to talk to creatives and kind of get behind their process and the permission structure to get allows you to like have your vision brought to the world. Is like why I create this space in the podcast world to do that. Because I think it's always interesting to me is like I kind of always ask this story like what gave you the feeling that you could write a book? Because some people like they have this idea and then they never do it. So what
It
made you want to do it?
it was never really in my plan. Like I had heard the idea from a seminar I went to, so I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll write a book someday." But it was really like divine inspiration. It really was. I was about 46. I was terrified of turning 46, and I wanted to be empowered and inspired by it instead of like terrified. And
Hmm.
I got the idea for this book, and I was like, who am I to say this? And then I got the title, and I was like, can you say that? Like, I don't know if I can say that. So it's like, I've never been 50 before. Who am I to be an expert in this? And now that I'm actually in my 50s, I'm like, yeah, I kind of get this.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's real important for people to feel that at any age they can express themselves, and we kind of have this kind of youth culture thing with the media. That at least, and as a musician, I run into it where it's like it's a young person's game. They try to get some 15, 16, 17-year old and try to keep you in your 20s forever. And if you start getting, I'm 58. So
Mhm.
58, they're like, well, I'm not really interested in that at all.
Exactly, exactly. I just turned 53, so I understand. I'm like, oh, look at the kids. Look what they're doing. That's so cute.
Yeah, it's cute. Because it's interesting. 'Cause, look, but I always point out to people, like, if you go to New Orleans and you see these jazz bands, well, it doesn't matter how old they are. You see a Delta blues like musician, it doesn't matter how old they are. But certain genres like pop or like something that popular areas like they tend to want to find like that the youth market is what they're going for. But to me as a writer, like that's a whole different thing because like the more experience you have, the better writer you're going to be, and the more perspective you have in terms of you like living on this planet longer, you're going to have more wisdom to give to people.
Exactly. And that is something I address in my book. Like, by the time you're 50, you've been through some shit. Like, you've made the bad choices, you've had the bad relationships, you've had the financial issues, you've gotten your education, you've changed careers a couple of times. Like, you've been through it. So you actually have something to draw on and something to go forward with instead of like not knowing anything about life.
Yeah, and just having like the unapologetic confidence. And do you run into the fact that some people feel because of your gender that you should have a certain way of behaving or a certain level of confidence, or do they find that like I find sometimes the people used to call people like me like, oh, you're uppity
Oh,
if I
interesting.
expressed an opinion. And you can kind
Right?
of guess where that comes from.
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, it's really funny because when I started traveling solo when I was 45, so people would call me brave. They'd be like, "Oh, you're so brave to be traveling by yourself as a woman." I'm like, if I don't do it by myself, I'm not going to be doing it. So, because if you're waiting on other people to go with you, you're going to end up
Yeah,
waiting.
you never
And that's
go.
what I found out. Yeah. So I was like, I don't consider myself brave. I was just like, this is what I want to do. And if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? You know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is a lot of people put you in a box. Like we have all these people saying we want the new ideas, we want people to create creative. I'm like, so then you want me to be 9 to 5 in this cubicle? So like, do you not understand that like artists tend to not want to be in that kind of space? And they just don't get it. So I've always, I mean, even though I'm a techie, I work from home
Nice.
so I can do multiple things. So I
Hmm.
can do this podcast, I can do my music, and because I used to be on that train where I was flying around, I was in the box, I was kind of following what they said, and it's like I'm not able to do the other things I want to do with my life, and I'm not one dimensional. And I think a lot of people you don't realize people are multidimensional. They have a lot of aspects they want to deal with, and then it seems like the world wants to pin you down to like what one thing are you? I'm like, well, I'm not one thing.
Exactly. And I do like I'm a Virgo, so I like to put things in boxes and I like to have, no structure. And it's so funny because I always thought I would be a corporate person. I thought I was going to be in business and make money because I grew up with, I'm from 72. I grew up in the 80s. So I always thought I was going to, climb the corporate ladder and it was not my calling. I was a spiritual teacher for a while. I got into massage. Like, so it's my world has been completely different than what I thought it was going to be. And it seems like that's how life kind of throws you those curveballs.
Yeah, this whole thing, and there's this idea in jazz, right? That sometimes
Mhm.
there's no bad note. There's an
Exactly.
opportunity, right? And Herbie Hancock talked about it because he's like he was playing with Miles Davis. Miles he actually hit the wrong chord for the song, and Miles changed the song to match him. And then Herbie wrote that that was like a big pivotal moment when he realized that he didn't have to be wedded to the music. He could be in the present moment and let some of that go and just enjoy being in the moment and adjust to that moment, which is kind of flow state, kind of stream of
Hmm.
consciousness type of thing. And some people can't get into that. They want to know what it's going to be. They got to have the plan. They want everything mapped out. Other people enjoy the kind of random chaos of not knowing what's going to happen.
Exactly. You just described how I travel. So I used to like to have my first trip, I planned everything out. And now I'm just like, I don't know where I'm going to be living. I don't know where I'm going to be going. I don't know how long I'm staying there for. So, yeah, being in the flow state gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility that we don't have otherwise. And as humans, our conscious mind is wanting security and it's wanting to know the next step. And we want to know that we're doing things right. And the older you get, you're like, you know what? Maybe we're just going to roll with it. So I love that. I love hearing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a musician, like anything you've done, if you've been an athlete, you're a writer. It's like you got your 10,000 hours to give you your expertise and your skills. Like like as the writers, like I know how to turn a phrase. Like that's my thing.
Hmm.
Musician, I know how to create a groove or create a loop, or I know how to do something that's gonna make somebody stay in the song so they don't leave the song. But at some point, you just say, "Well, if I know my craft, I gotta trust myself, and I'm not gonna be asking like the guys in the band, what key are we in when you know what key you're in, right? Like, why are you
Exactly.
asking that if you know what it is? What are you doing?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like, even though this is my second book, I wrote a short ebook for massage therapists. This is my second book, and I still don't consider myself a writer. I'm like, I'm an author, but I don't know if I'm a writer, because everything just came through me. Maybe by my fifth or sixth book, maybe then I'll be like, oh, I am a writer.
Yeah, well, once you get into that phase, like once you get past the first thing, then it starts to flow. To me, it's like
Right. Okay, good.
unless you get real anxious about can I do better than I did before, and then you get lost in that loop.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of times you just gotta say, sometimes like what I do, it's gonna be like a trip on the ocean. It's like gonna be waves. It's like I gotta navigate it, and
It's
it
like
might be up
surfing.
and down. Yeah,
It's like surfing. You got to ride the waves, because then it will carry you. But if you try and fight against it, you're not going to go far.
so you had like an accident, like a car accident. That was like a pivotal event in your life. Can you talk about like how that affected what you were what you chose to do?
Yes, actually, it's ironic because I had two pivotal car accidents. My first one happened in 2000. I was hit by a semi. That got me into massage therapy because massage, chiropractic, and acupuncture were part of my treatments. So that opened the door to massage. And I grew up in a household where it's like rub my shoulders, walk on my back. but I never saw it as a career. And then in 2017, a week before my first international trip, I was hit by an 89-year-old lady at a stoplight.
Oh
And
wow.
that ended my massage career. And it was devastating for me because I was misdiagnosed and I kept trying to do massage and I was in so much pain. So that was pivotal for me to be like, okay, what do I do with my life now? Because I haven't done anything else. Like I didn't think I was good at anything else. And I tried some other things. Like I was doing funeral sales during COVID.
Oh wow.
You think that would be easy, but it wasn't.
No, it'd be
Um,
hard because
and it was just
the emotion of it is quite hard to deal with.
exactly. And I grew up going to funerals. Like we didn't go on vacations as kids. We went to funerals.
Oh geez.
Yeah, my childhood was very different. But so it was just like it was that moment, doing that I was like, what do I want my life to be like? Because what I could do, what I had known, it was gone, and I wasn't sure what to do and how to pivot. And so I literally turned a 10-day birthday trip going to San Diego to use up credit card miles to like, fuck it, I'm moving to Mexico. Like that's literally like somehow,
Well,
the
how did
logic.
Mexico become the thing? Did just because it's cheaper to live there, or you can extend your money there?
Well, I'd been going down for dental work. I'd been down there twice for dental work, and every time I went down, I loved it and I didn't want to leave. And so I knew I could live there. I knew I liked it. I knew I could live there. I knew my money would go further. And it was kind of like, okay, this isn't working for me in the States. Let me go down there and kind of figure things out and let my body heal. Because I was pretty angry for a couple of years about the accident. I woke up and I was in pain every day, and I still have issues from it.
Mm,
But like in the beginning of 2020, I was like, I have to let this go. Like I have to be willing to heal because I know better. I was a spiritual teacher for 7 years. I was a massage therapist for 20 years. I'm certified in yoga. Like I understand how the body works and that it can heal itself. So holding on to all that anger, that resentment, and just being pissed off, I was like, I gotta let this go. I need to heal. And
yeah,
so
that's
I'm like,
interesting.
yeah, and down in Mexico, like I love Mexico. There's so many healers. It's such an international country. You can find everything there. It's amazing.
Yeah, because it seems like sometimes we have so many gates in the West. Like unless you go to places that are more like you go to L.A. or you go to New York, we have very multicultural things that you could find something like if you're
Exactly.
looking for it. But if you're in parts of America, like it's like a desert culturally.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm originally from the Midwest, so I understand that. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, originally, so I understand that. But I've been living in Dallas, and we had tried everything, and the Western medicine, we did everything, and they were like, "Oh, well, you need this $300,000 surgery on your neck." And
Yeah.
I was like, we're not doing that because I know I can cope with what's going on right now. But if you start messing with your neck and back, you don't know what you're going to end up with. And you could end up in a lot more pain and restriction,
Oh, yeah, it's
and
like
I,
hip surgeries. I mean, if you people get the hip surgeries and they tell you this and that, and then you end up in pain for the rest of your life, like it's hard to deal with.
exactly. And I love alternative medicine. Like I'm a big believer in acupuncture, uh, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. I'm in that
Or
space. So,
naturopathic,
oh,
because yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a history, with like indigenous and ancient cultures. They knew things and they had processes, and then Western medicine wanted to put the patent on it, put the copyrights on it, put the
mhm.
legal control over it. So then it becomes super expensive and not accessible. And you're taught that this group of people are the experts at it, and there's no way you can get into that without going through them. And I think that's end up being like a lot of people aren't very happy with the system.
Exactly. Well, in the Western world, we have built a system like you have to do these things so then everybody makes money from you. Whereas like in the more ancient cultures, like in India and China, I'm sure Japan also, but it's like they have medicines that have been around for 5,000 years.
Yeah,
I literally will go to my chiropractor or acupuncturist before I go to a Western doctor because I trust that. And unfortunately, so many people wait so long to try anything besides Western medicine until they have a chronic disease or disorder. And then it takes so much longer to heal. Whereas, kind of try that first. You might be surprised.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of history. Like the ancients had a history, and then based on colonialism, people kind of negated that history. and said it wasn't valuable because it didn't come from a Western perspective. Well, there's a whole reason for that. We'll get into that later. But the idea is like I'm very much of somebody like very expansive. Like I lived in Japan, like I said, for 2 years, and I practice like Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism. So I'm not like typical of
Right?
even in my group, like because most of us would be like, "Oh, you're like Baptist or something." Like, no, I'm not. But it's like the idea is people just immediately put you in a column. It's like, "Oh, you're this, so you must be that, and you must be this, you must be that." So I'm like, okay, well, that's what you think, but you have to dive a little deeper.
Exactly, exactly. And come to think of it, you do kind of look like Buddha, so I could see that.
But yeah, we're gonna kind of go to your actual book. So when you start writing when you were in Mexico?
Yes, actually, I did. I had the idea for it before then, but I actually did my book proposal when I was in San Cristobal, Mexico, in Chiapas in 2021.
Hmm. So how long was the process of writing the book? 'Cause I always like to get into like people behind like your the what your method it was like. It sounds like you're a flow state type of person,
Mhm.
but like what was the were you outlining? Did you have beta readers? Did you do all these things? It's like there's a whole process behind the way. How did you birth your book?
Well, like I said, the idea came to me, but I literally dictate into my phone into a Google Docs. Like when I was
Hmm.
out walking my dogs or doing things, you get ideas. So I would do that even before I went to Mexico because I'm like, okay, I've got this idea. Let's get some things down. And I literally didn't actually start writing it until I had a publisher, which I no longer have. That's a whole nother story. But I was actually writing the book when I was in different parts of the world,
Mm.
mainly in Antalya, Turkey,
Oh wow.
back in 2022. Because then I had a publisher, and they're like, "Well, I had a couple of chapters written, but they're like, we actually need to see the book." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, let me write it."
Hmm.
Because I had the idea for the book and I knew the sections I wanted, but I wasn't sure if they were viable. I wasn't sure if this really is going to work because part of the book does talk about pre planning and funeral preparations and death, which is not a happy topic. It doesn't really go with the rest of my book. But I do think it's important if you're 50 or approaching 50 to have things in mind, just because we don't know. So that was part of the book, and I wasn't really sure if that was going to flow and that was going to move, or if the rest of the book was really viable. So I did wait actually to write most of the book until I was in Turkey, and then I actually finished it when I was in Luxor, Egypt.
Oh wow. So you
Oh
really
yeah,
were world trotting around. But that's like
yeah.
kind of like the Jack Kerouac kind of on the road kind of point.
Hmm.
Like there's like this idea that if you're an artist, like actually traveling, because a lot of what I find with artists is like we pull from what's around us. We're
Exactly.
very observant, and we're observant of our own subconscious and our own internal looking glass self, and we're also observant of what is outside of that looking glass self. And the thing about like the creativity, it's a synthesis of both of those things, of being able to
Exactly.
take that and then make get the theme, get the story.
And I get inspired by people and things around me. Like you have to be inspired when you go to Egypt and see the pyramids, or when you go and see temples,
Hmm.
or when you're seeing these amazing um, architecture, like in Rome and Greece. Like you have to get excited. Like I'm inspired
It's
when I
art.
see
It's like
those
it's,
things.
it shows
Yeah.
the art of human like expansion of what we can do. Like if you take this group, the Romans built this, the Greeks built that, the Egyptians built this. You go into Central America, you can see like Inca and Aztec, all kinds of stuff. So you see all this stuff, and he's like, wow. And if you're an artist, it just starts clicking things off. you know? You get these ideas. It's like, oh, I can use that to inspire me to come up with a vision of how do I describe what this means to me.
Exact
You know,
exactly, exactly. When we are in that state of mind, it's easier for us to receive ideas. You're not thinking about your bank balance or what you have to do tomorrow. You're actually in a receptive state, so you can actually receive these ideas that can be life-changing for you.
yeah. I think a lot of times we get so stuck on the we're autopilot, and you're going to that 9 to 5, or you're going for the groceries, or you're doing the thing that you always do,
Mhm.
if you can get out of that, whether through meditation or breaks or like saying, "Hey, I need to walk in the woods. I need to have my feet touch soil."
Exactly.
I need to be able to give myself these breaks. And that was cool when I was in Japan. Is in the middle of the day, you see these salarymen doing like Tai Chi in the park,
Nice.
and people doing like meditation and drinking tea and just having they would just take the space in the middle of a day, and they were like very left brain, right brain. I mean, they're very
Hmm.
logical, very much into working 14 hours, but no one went to walk away and take that break, which was a little different. I was like, "Wow, that's." I see the work ethic that I've seen like before, but this taking the break and going doing the Tai Chi, I didn't see that before.
Exactly. And that is so wonderful. Because in Western society, we're just like go, 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 go. And we even have like the fast food restaurants who we're like eating in our car.
Yeah,
And when I was first introduced to Ayurvedic medicine through yoga teacher training, part of how I lost 90 pounds. And part of that was my practitioner was like, you need to take time to eat. So
yeah,
stop
we
eating in
don't
your
do
car.
that.
Stop doing that. Don't be eating at your desk. Literally go someplace, preferably outside, and connect with nature and eat. And so after I would do yoga, I would literally take like 10 or 15 minutes to sit and eat on the ground before I went to see a client. And
I
it made
think it's
a
real.
difference.
That's really important because even like in outside the West, you go to Central America and Mexico, you have siesta. People take long lunches, they take breaks, and Americans look at that. Well, that's not efficient. You get managers and actuaries and accountants like that's so inefficient. It's like no, what we're doing is inefficient because we burn people out.
Exactly. And dinner can be hours too, like, especially in any place else, like in Europe and Spain. I was in Spain last year, and like they're eating dinner at 10 o'clock at night because it's still light outside, during spring and summer. And they're just enjoying life. They're enjoying the experience. They're connecting with others.
They're having
And
that
it's
conversation at dinner. Like there's like they're not the
exactly.
TV. We've got our TVs on, and they're actually talking.
Hmm.
I remember I went to a Japanese house and they did like a hot pot, and it was a big honor to actually be like a gaijin or an expat and get invited to a Japanese house for a real
Yes.
dinner. And we were
Hmm.
sitting on the mat, sitting on the floor, and they were serving us a traditional dinner,
Oh,
not
I
what
love
you get
that.
in a restaurant. And we felt honored that we actually had broken through the cultural barrier and they invited us in because we were there for 2 years and we were going to school at it. My kid
Nice.
was going to a Japanese school, and we just instead of being like the ugly American, we were trying to adopt the culture of the culture we were in. And we
Exactly.
weren't just going, oh, we're finding the McDonald's. You
Exactly.
find this, find you're always trying to just be comfortable. We said, maybe we'll be a little uncomfortable, but we should try to be in the culture we're in.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of traveling, it really is. When I was in Turkey, I was living with a Turkish family, with the person I was seeing for like 5 months, and we had Turkish breakfast, which is traditionally served on the floor, like, it's kinda like a picnic style, so it's
Mhm.
really interesting, but it's like I love traveling and experiencing different cultures. If I wanted to do things the American way, I'd stay in America. But when you open your mind and your heart to other cultures and people, you just grow. Like I am not afraid of getting Alzheimer's, because my mind is constantly changing and seeing things differently, which I love.
Yeah, they always say, I mean, what I've read is like if you're a musician or you're an artist and you continue to do your craft, you can kind of stave off that.
Hmm.
Alzheimer's can get, not that you're going to not solve it, but like there's something about like playing an instrument or being an artist or in artistic endeavors to help stave it off because like you're accessing the part of your brain that does that. And it seems to keep things in check from what I've read and heard and had experienced with. My father had Alzheimer's, but um, it just seems like when you're writing your book, this whole idea of being fabulous and being approachable
Hmm.
and attractive and that's something that it was counterintuitive to what people were saying you should be at 50.
No, not at all. Because in the American culture, in the Western culture, we're like, oh, 50 is over the hill, you're washed up. everything hurts. If you have gray hair, you're not sexy anymore, all those things. And really, the book came through me, and it's really, even the word fuckable, it's really about connecting with yourself, stepping into your power, loving yourself. Because for so long, I was so hard on myself, and I still am, to a certain degree. But it's like really appreciating your body, appreciating who you are, and just loving yourself. Because unless you can do that, we tend to want things from other people that we're not giving ourselves.
Yeah.
Rather than when you give it to yourself first, then you don't expect it from other people. You don't need somebody else to make you happy. You're not looking for your soulmate. You don't need your better half. Like, you are your soulmate. You are your better half. You are a complete and whole person unto yourself. And no matter how your body looks, like, appreciate and be grateful for it. Even if it doesn't look like, Cindy Crawford, or, the latest, greatest Kate Moss, like, whatever. Like, I'm 50 and or 53 actually, and I love and appreciate my body like I never had before. And when I made that shift really and started appreciating my body, the weight did start coming off. And Ayurvedic medicine is all about that, really appreciating and loving your body as it is, because it's like we tend to want instant gratification, and we want to, like, it's like, oh well, when I get it, I'll be happy for it.
Hmm.
When I get the $1 million, I'll be happy for it. I'll start living like a rich person. But if you start doing that now, if you start appreciating your body now, you start appreciating your life now and who you are now, then you become the person you want to be. Instead of waiting until you have $1 million to live a rich lifestyle, start doing your incremental upgrades in your life now. You know, buy the better chocolate. I'm a woman, we love chocolate. Buy the better chocolate. Treat yourself to something that's a little bit better than economy class. Do it in these increments so you don't shock your nervous system, because we tend to wait and want things like in one big chunk. But if you don't start doing it now, you're not going to get there, and you're going to keep being miserable. So be
Yeah.
happy now.
I think
That's my message.
they have this idea like, oh, I'm gonna get that boat when I retire. Instead of like maybe you could get a smaller boat and start doing stuff now, right? You're like,
Right.
I was always I'm a musician, and like I always wanted to get something, a higher end instrument. And I just said, like, in order to do what I want to do. So I actually put the effort to get it, because like, well, how can you justify having it? Well, like, I can't justify monetarily having it, but it's going to help me a process. So it's important to have. And I don't want to wait till I'm 75 to get it.
Exactly.
So at some point you have to make a choice, and some they're hard. I mean, sometimes you get into a discomfort zone. Like, artists will do that. We'll go outside what we're normally able to do to kind of push to the next thing, you know?
Exactly. And it's like sometimes we think we want something, but if you try it on, you'd be like, oh, you know what? That really doesn't fit me. Like, instead of waiting till you have enough money to buy the boat, rent a boat and see if you like that kind of boat. Because you might be like, oh, this really isn't what I thought it was going to be. And then you also save yourself, the headache of the upkeep, how much it
Mhm.
costs, insurance, things that go wrong with it, repairs, just renting it. Then you can try it out. Like, I really thought I wanted to live in Italy. It was one of the first places I went to. It's a place that was near and dear to my heart. Like, I had been saying for 7 years, I want to live in Italy. I want to live in
Mhm.
Italy since my first trip. I went back to Italy last year in April. Guess what? I was like, I don't want to live in Italy. Like, I love Italy. It's an amazing country. I love visiting, but it's a little cold. And I
Yeah.
don't like the
Maybe
cold
it's good for
anymore.
vacation, but not good for the whole year.
Exactly. Maybe staying there, 2, 3 months out of the year, or changing the seasons up. I think I'm going to be okay with that. But I was like, yeah, I really don't want to live in Italy. And that was just such a huge eye opener. I was like, wait a minute. Like, if I don't want this, what do I want?
Yeah, you have
So
to kinda, like you said, to kinda, like, dip into something, test it out, and a lot of people are scared to even do that. Like, they
mhm,
don't get outside their comfort zone, because the comfort zone is, like, go back to, like, the idea of safety. People, like
exactly.
the wolf's at the door if you go outside the comfort zone.
And so many people never really realize their dreams manifest because they are afraid of what it's going to cost or what they're going to have to do to get there. Like, I love Tim Ferriss. I love his book, The 4 Hour Work Week. That was super inspiring to me because he's like, you need to know what your dreams cost, because a lot of us are like, oh, that's just too expensive and I can't do it. Like, my first international trip, I found a journal I'd written in my 20s, and I was like, I want to go to Italy, Greece, and Egypt. Those were my three biggies. And I had lost, my parents right before I turned 40. I'd lost a lot of family members very quickly. So I was like, if I don't do it now, when will I do it?
Hmm.
And so for my 45th birthday, I went, and it was like, because I was like, oh, I can't go because I can't afford it. It's too expensive. And I figured it out. You can figure things out if you allow your mind to be open to those possibilities. But when you close it, be like, oh, I can't do this, then there's no room to expand, to grow, to have those desires manifest. Like, I couldn't afford to go to Egypt. I was like the least likely of my friends. I was the brokest of my friends. I was a massage therapist. If you don't work, you don't get paid. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
kind of paycheck to paycheck kind of doing.
exactly. And I was like, fuck it. If I'm going, I'm going for 3 weeks. Like, I'm not just going to go for like 5 or 7 days like some people do, which I do not understand. I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And
That
I did.
that's always hard for Americans because a lot of times, like our standard is like the 2 weeks. So people want to spread it out for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so they never really do the 3 week unless they've been working for 20, 30 years and they have an accrued amount. And suddenly, and even then, they don't do it because they tend to save it for other things. They never want to do that extended 3 week.
Exactly. In other countries, they're getting like 2 months off a year, or they're getting like all these holidays and stuff. Like, I'm in Medellin, Colombia right now, and it seems like there's always some holiday. And it's
Yeah,
interesting.
they treat people like human beings don't want to be machines, but the Industrial Revolution kind of like Henry Ford, whatever. But once you got people on that assembly line, once you got those actuaries in the cube, they started saying, "Well, that's what people should do." But if
Exactly.
you ask the executive, they ask the CEO, "Is that what he does?" That is not what they do. They don't live like that.
No, they don't. They absolutely don't. So it's really interesting the way Americans work and the way that we're geared towards it. And I have this theory. I don't know if I should share this on live or not, but I have this theory that the American government deliberately tells people how dangerous Mexico is to keep them in America.
Yeah,
Because it's like, if people really knew how wonderful other countries are, we wouldn't stay in America. We would go and live abroad. And a lot of people are doing that now that there is remote work. Since COVID, people have kind of
yeah, I know.
expanded.
But my wife's from Barbados, and
Oh,
we've thought
nice.
about like even though it's kind of hot there, but the idea
Yeah.
like there's a lot of people in tech that will live like in the Caribbean, like on the beach because you can, and some of the Caribbean countries are encouraging that to get the
Hmm.
Western IT people to come over because they know we've got some money,
Exactly.
and money goes a lot further in those places. So it's just a lot of times, like you say, people say, well, it could be dangerous. Just, it could be, oh, yeah. Even when I went to Japan, there were people in my family said, oh, they're not going to like you. It's going to be the language barrier is too hard to deal with. But it's like once you're in a society, like I had to learn how to get around and I had
Exactly.
to learn how to get food. So you learn. And you just,
Exactly.
if immersion is the best way to do it, you kind of just jump in it.
Exactly. And I find that people are very kind and generous all over the world, especially if you're respectful. If you're going to go there and be an asshole, you're going to have a hard time.
Oh, yeah.
But
If
if,
you're
you,
going
if
to do
you're going
that.
to go there and really respect the culture and be genuinely invested in being there, people are just curious
They
about you
help
and they
you.
want to help you. Yes, they want to help you. They want to see you succeed. In America, we have this very closed way of thinking. And people say, oh, you lived in Mexico, so dangerous. Oh, Colombia, so dangerous. I'm like, how many mass shootings have you had in America so far this year?
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
it's like we have got dangerous highways where you're likely to get killed, right?
Hmm.
More likely, and you're talking about safety, and like you go out down the highway, you're highly likely to get injured, right?
Exactly.
And
And
so
in
it's like
and in
what
Tex
how much dangerous is relative.
exactly. And in Texas, people can carry guns in their car.
Yeah, I mean,
So
the level of like issues within the U.S. right now is just a whole different thing because people just don't get outside of their imagination. Like if you go and you travel in other societies, like if you think if you have this idea, we're number one. But if you actually go check, like I'm in IT and I'm like, we're not number one in math scores. We're not number one in like people who know physics and engineering and the tech. We have to get people from Poland, from Germany,
hmm.
from Taiwan, from all these countries to do jobs. We're always looking for people, and we find people that can't do the job. and then we have to go outside to get that, the
Hmm.
work visas from people who have better technical capability. So
Exactly.
the people need to understand this kind of tunnel vision of thinking you're the best without check-in, without evidence. It's like, well, travel
Yeah.
and you'll find out.
Exactly. I mean, and it's so interesting because it's like America was, we were number one. But what's happened though is like when you get locked into that and you don't create any type of room for growth or doing things differently, we have a very old way of education, an old way of teaching.
Yeah, our
Um,
teaching methods from the agricultural era.
yeah, exactly. It was to produce workers. It was not to captivate and cultivate human genius. It was to create workers. Okay, this is what you do now. The bell rings, you go and do something else. And there have been books written on this. The way they used to do it, where you had the old schoolhouse and you had all the grades together, and the kids would help each other. That
Hmm.
is way more effective than what we have right now as an educational system. And so it's like we're not growing and changing. They're making like the classes harder and they're creating a lot more tests, but they're not tapping into the
Yeah.
human genius and capabilities that we have. And that's really where, we're kind of getting locked down. So luckily we do have other schools that, have emerged, and like the Montessori schools and things like that, that are like, okay, we want to cultivate the genius
Well,
within
yeah,
the
the
youth.
critical thinking, it's like even the like Socratic method. Like I went to a Bowdoin College, and it's all about kind of the Socratic method and liberal arts where you're doing like a little
Mm,
bit of everything, right? And so instead of having multiple choice tests done by a TA, you have very small class sizes, like 15 students, and you actually have the professor. You could
mhm.
go to the professor's house and have a talk with the professor. They could hang around, and you actually had long, engaging conversations, not just the length
There
of
you
the
go.
class. And you have blue book exams or oral exams where you had to actually, in your own words, tell the professor what you think what the lesson was about.
Mhm.
In that method, you can't just go and do A, B, C, D, E. You have to actually write out and think out and then have an argument and the teacher show you where you were wrong. And so it's like, where's the evidence? And so like you have to have evidence, you have to have critical thinking, you have to have imagination, empathy, all kinds of things that these kind of standardized way testing doesn't do that. So
Exactly.
you get locked into thinking in a very narrow focus, and you don't really move forward.
Exactly. And now we have AI. So that does a lot of the thinking for us now. That
Yeah,
can
I get scared
generate
of
answers
that.
like that.
You got to ban the calculator. If you ban the calculator and ban the phone during the test, you got to ban the AI for the test. It's like, I don't want my student using AI to answer the question. I want them to use their own brain.
Exactly, exactly. So it's interesting. And especially since you have a tech background, I was curious to see what you would say. Like, I am learning to embrace technology and AI because I have really resisted it. But now I'm really embracing it, and it has been really helpful for me. And it's been able to help move me forward in a way that would take me so much longer.
Well, it's a tool. It's a tool like any
Exactly.
tool. As a musician, people like I'm a synthesist, which means I
Mm,
use synthesizers, but I use like, Moogs and Rolands and Yamahas. And even today, to the kids today with they have this thing called in the box. You have producers that are not musicians. They're not even trained. They can't play a piano. They can't play any instrument.
oh, wow.
But they're actually go onto a computer, go into what they call a digital audio workstation, and can on a grid put the song together. Now it's a different skill set, and a lot of times it's kind of like a DJ mentality. They know a groove when they
Hmm.
put grooves together, but it's not the same as being somebody who can play an instrument. It's a different skill. It's more of a production skill, and you can measure creativity within that production skill, right? But I always kind of default like if you actually knew the instrument, you would maybe do that differently, right? So
Wow.
there's a point of using the technology to a certain degree, but also understand there's a certain base level of competency you need to have. And so you
Exactly.
have to kind of manage both. And say like if you get somebody, it's like, oh, if you it becomes too much of a crutch, then you lose some of the ability you actually should be kind of trying to develop your natural human ability versus the AI assistant.
Hmm. Hmm. Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see what we do in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
because
It's
We come
interesting.
from a we come from a different generation. We remember when the phones were attached to the walls,
Remember when they
you
were
know?
rotary? They weren't buttons. They were like rotary phones. And kids today will have no idea how to do that. They'd be like, "How am I supposed to put the number in doing that?" Like, no, no, there's no way they
Mhm.
want to do that.
Yeah, I remember when cordless phones were like a big deal. It's like, oh, now we can walk away from the wall, and now we have computers we can hold in our hands. Like it's amazing how far it's come, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future.
Well, I was talking to some like actors and
Hmm.
film directors, and they say like AI is a good tool, but it can become a crutch. It can like wreck your ability to tell the story because
Hmm.
it creates on its face something that looks really good,
Yeah.
right? But then when you dive into it, it's like where's the heart, where's the soul, where's the depth? So on its surface, it can look great, and it's kind of like a junk food thing. You
Yeah.
can create something that's passable. It could get out there, but does it have the depth of a Citizen Kane? Does it have the depth of anything Scorsese ever did? Probably not, because there's something about actually putting the work in
Hmm.
that the work you put in is what you get out of it.
Exactly. And who knows, it might also be able to help other people that maybe don't think that they're creative tap into that, like get them started so they can start getting it going and kind of like embrace that creativity process a little bit more. Like,
It can get you in the door. It can help you do something where like I can't afford 1,000 person crew. I can't afford these sets. But if you the thing goes there is the story good?
hmm.
Like my whole point with art is like there are gates like in music industry that say, well, are you a good songwriter? Can you pass the action? Do you know how to build a song? Do you understand songwriting theory? Do you understand how to turn a phrase and actually connect? If you give somebody that like, well, they can't really connect and the story's not that good, but then they can get all the artifice to make it seem okay, but it's still not really there. It doesn't have the goods. So
Hmm.
if you get somebody that's got the goods, they just didn't have the money. Right.
Exactly.
That can be a real good combination. The other combinations aren't so good.
Exactly. Exactly. And I am not musically inclined at all. So,
But I think it's a good tool for, I mean, it's a cool tool for anything. I mean, you can use it to build, it help you. Like if you're an Etsy store, you could use AI to kind of get your workflow going. You have a 3D printer, you could do, but you're still an artisan. You're an Etsy person, right? Manually, you could put something together. But with
exactly.
these tools, you can expand your, now suddenly you're doing, instead of doing 5 things a week, you can do 50 and they're
Exactly.
consistent with your original design. That's cool. It's
Hmm.
like, but you got to find, I think there's this balance of like you have to have that initial competence or the initial idea that could get flushed out by the tool. And if that idea can get, you still have to have that idea, and the idea comes from the human. If the idea comes from
Exactly.
the AI, then I kind of question it.
Exactly. But yeah, I've actually started using AI myself. And I'm like, huh, I thought I was going to start using this 2 years ago. And I just never did because I'm not a techie person. But now I'm actually learning to embrace it and utilize it. And it's been really helpful. So yeah,
With
and I am the least techie person that you will ever meet. I'm just like, technology.
Well,
So to
that's a
be
cool thing.
embracing it is wonderful.
It's designed for people who aren't techie. That's the thing. It's like the fifth, sixth generation programming capability because it actually can take natural language and to do tasks for you. It's a workflow. It can so if you do what we call prompt engineering,
Okay, yeah.
and the better you get at your prompt, the better the outcome. And so, like
Okay.
if you get very detailed in what you ask it, if you actually start telling it like in case this, in case that, if this, if
Okay.
that, if you say like you give more adjectives and adverbs, you give more level
Okay.
of detail,
Okay.
it will give you closer to what you want. If you give it generalities, it will come and produce something, but it might not be what you wanted. And the problem I have with some kids or people that use it, they take the first thing that comes without refining that chat, you know, engineering.
Yeah, I've been guilty of that, to be honest. But I'm learning, I am
Yeah.
learning. And the fact, like, impressed me. My friends are like, really? You're using technology? Like, wow, that's amazing.
Well, it's cool because it can help you finish things out. I mean, it
Hmm.
helps you outline. I mean, it create templates. In my business, we can create templates. We can refine ideas because it's very logical. So if you give it something that demands like a logical analysis and you say, here are these 10 things, put them into categories based on what I wrote these things are, it will
Ex-
actually go and categorize those things in a way that's pretty clear and real. A lot of times it will be accurate.
exactly. And I'm actually using it for steps on how do I self-publish? How do I do this? Because I had a publisher, I no longer have one. I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna self-publish. I'm gonna do this. I've done it with one book and it didn't sell anything because I didn't promote it. So now I'm like, okay, I know there's steps that I've missed. So what do I need to do? How do I need to do this? So it's been really helpful for me in that because it's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming to be like, huh, I'm going to self-publish a book. It's like,
Yeah, and
how do you
also
do
like
that?
if you show something like you give it like an Instagram post, here's the like what's the best SEO for this? What are the best
Exactly.
tags for this based on what I wrote?
Hmm. Okay.
Now it will go and scrub the net and say, hey, based on what you wrote, this tag will get you more engagement because we actually went and
Mm,
ran through the web and say these are the tags that are getting engagement. So that's something you didn't know, right? The computer is so
exactly.
fast, it can go and scrub Instagram and say these tags are getting engagement. So it'll give you
Okay.
real data. And that's where it's powerful because you can get it to do stuff for you that maybe you would have had to pay somebody to do that. But if you
Exactly.
ask it the right question, you don't have to pay that
Ah,
guy.
okay. I like that. I like that because I have not been utilizing that yet. Like everything I do is kind of like off the cuff. So I need to get a little more strategic, a little more planned out. But yeah, no, I love that. I'll have to start using that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you can be very strategic with what you can ask
Yeah.
it, and it can be very powerful in terms of amplifying your workflow or how you want to present something in the best way, or what's going to get better engagement. That's what it's really good for things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, and it's also, I mean, I always I get into arguments with people. It's like, well, do I really want an AI thing writing a fusion jazz song, right?
Mm,
Fusion jazz song to me is really in the space of a fusion jazz musician.
exactly. Exactly.
So I would
Yes.
argue like if it helps me produce it by giving, actually cleaning up the mix or giving me a better reverb, but it's not writing that line. It's making my sound better. If it goes and does something to enhance the sound or clean up the static or do something like, yeah, fine, you can do, I have it do those things. And that's like a tool. It's like a
Hmm.
production tool. But to have it write my line as a bass player or something, like I don't want it writing my line,
Yeah, yeah, no,
but
it
that's just
has
a
to come from
choice
here.
that you make.
Mhm, exactly, it has to come from here. And just like with me, my book is like my first step. It's like the opening the door because I really want to create a movement for women to be like, yes, you're turning 50 and you can still do anything you want. You can travel, you can live the life you want, you can change. Because we haven't really been told that. People do put themselves in a box and they kind of stay there. So using AI to kind of open those doors more and to help me grow and change more myself, I think is really fascinating. And the way that you're using it with music is just amazing.
But I also think it's interesting, like when people look at their lives, they look at the period. Like you look at, if you're in your like you're 17, this is like your view of the world. When you get to your mid 20s, this is you get a different view. You get 30, 40. Once you hit 50, it's like, oh, I'm midway. So it's like that midlife crisis. They're always talking about in the 70s, all these movies about midlife crisis. But
Hmm.
like so this idea of like how did I define myself when I was 30 and now I'm 50? Is there anything from my 30s that still stays with me? Or do I but I think like in your life there's always just something maybe still stays with you. There's stuff from like when you were a teenager that stays with you. So like how do you kind of balance like what was in the past to what's in the future, what's now?
Exactly. And it's like, I mean, we retain those skills on how to drive a car, which we learned as a teenager, which is really a good thing. But if you're still retaining the same identity or limitations that you had as a teenager, that's not so great. And especially for me, because I do travel and I do challenge myself in that way. I actually feel younger now that I'm in my 50s than I did in my 30s, because I've let go of a lot of things. In my 30s, I had all kinds of self-worth issues, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not with somebody, I don't have a partner. You have all those limitations that now I'm kind of like, you know what? I really love my life. I love being single. I don't know if I will ever get married. It's just not in my world. It's not in my realm. And so it's like knowing that you can change and grow and have more freedom as you get older is really an expansive idea. Instead of holding on to all those old things, like you can constantly reinvent yourself. And especially when you go to new countries, you can be whoever you want, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's important because a lot of people, like you said, we were talking about the soulmate thing. Like a lot of people, is like they feel that their other or their soulmate is going to complete them. And then if you get stuck in that paradigm, and a lot of times where they don't complete you, right? And then you're waiting for them to complete you, so you're not self actualizing. So if you're more independent, then you say, hey, you know what? I don't need this other to complete me. I can complete myself.
Exactly.
And that is a hard place because a lot of people have been kind of taught that, oh, you gotta have, and if I'm a musician, I work like by myself, but I work in a team. If I'm in a band, I work with a team, right? And that band stays together as long as it works, right? If other people
Hmm.
in the band stop showing up
Mm,
or start making missing notes and start like messing up the gig, well, eventually that relationship with those four people, it goes away because it doesn't work.
exactly.
As
Exactly.
long as it
Exactly.
works, then it works. But if it don't work, then I'm out of it.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like I love Disney because I love cartoons. Like I do, I love cartoons. Even at this stage of my life, I love it. But it has done such a disservice to women because we're like, oh, we have to wait for the happy ever after. If you love somebody, you can go through and you can like endure everything because there's going to be a happy ever after,
Yeah.
and there's not.
Fairy tale. It's like a
You
fairy tale.
know,
They got the fairy
exactly.
tale ideology, and you put it on everybody, and everybody's living for that fairy tale moment to happen, right?
Hmm.
And it doesn't happen, right? It's a very rare thing to happen, and so like
Yeah.
what you should happen is like if you are in a very positive relationship, then each person will be kind of pushing in their direction, but it all comes together. But if you're in a lot of situations, people are going pushing the totally opposite ways, wondering why it's not coming together. And then they
Exactly.
never talked about why, maybe they blame each other why.
Exactly. Well, if you kiss a frog, it's still going to be a fucking frog. It's not changing how it breathes. You're
Yeah,
wasting your
that's
time. You're going to
magic.
get a disease. You're going to get warts. Like you're wasting that energy. And as women, we put all this energy into frogs, thinking it's going to become a prince, and it's not. You need to find somebody that you know they are who they are. And that is another thing. Accepting people for who they are, not trying to change them. Because as women, we like a good
Yeah, you
project.
guys,
We
it's a
like a
mission,
fixer
right? You
upper.
think you're gonna solve that. You're gonna have that big Mission Impossible moment. Like here's Barry, and Mission
No,
Impossible is to turn
no,
Barry into the prince.
no.
But
Especially
Barry's
trying to
he's still the frog.
exactly, and especially trying to change a man. Men are very transparent. They are who they are. They might try and woo you a bit in the beginning, but like if you
That's
look at
pretty
a guy,
true.
he's in ripped up jeans, he's driving a beat up car, he's doing drugs. That's who he is. He is not changing. If you want someone that's gonna, be a provider, be part of your life, you can grow together, you can have children together. That's not who you choose.
Yeah, that's the
You
problem.
need a guy that is on the track to want to have a family, not someone that's still doing drugs in their car and is homeless. Like, you don't need that. So it's like, as women, you need to make those smart decisions that you're not going to be able to change that person. Accept them for who they are. Don't try to change them. You might be able to work a little bit with the wardrobe every now and then, buy them like a nicer shirt or something, but that's
Mhm.
pretty much the extent. So, and that's so freeing though too, to realize that you love that person because of who they are, not because of who you want them to be. And
Yeah,
that is a mistake that I've made a lot in my life, like thinking, oh, well, they're going to change, and they don't, and then you just waste all this time and energy wondering why they haven't changed, when it's like it's really you that wants to change. You want to grow and change and expand, and so when you focus on yourself and do that, you're going to attract the person that fits in with your life, not trying to fit into theirs.
It's like the law of attraction. You think about
Yes,
music. I
yes.
always like in music. I come up with a couple of examples. Like if you have a very discordant frequency, right, things are going to be kind of chaotic. When you have that harmonious thing, if you're at a concert, everybody's got
Mhm.
the lighter out, everybody's waving, everybody's in the same frequency. But like if you're at that dissonance, like it's a grunge mosh pit, and those people like that mosh pit for the time they're in it. But do you want that
Mhm.
mosh pit when you want to be sleeping? Do you want that
No,
mosh pit when you want to be trying to like pay your rent? Probably not,
right. No.
right? So
Mhm.
the frequency has a lot to do with it. So some points in your life you might like that frequency, and maybe it's
Exactly.
point in time, but you got to realize that you don't. That point in time can't be the whole thing, right? And that's where people I think make the mistake because they're living in a mosh pit, they're living in the discordance, they're living in the distance.
Exactly, and I love that analogy, and the reason why I have to laugh is because I am from Des Moines, Iowa, and once upon a time, long, long ago, I used to take photos for thrash metal bands, and, and it's funny, way back then, like, I would try and be in the mosh pit, and they would literally move the mosh pit around me because I was a girl. But I actually was taking pictures of Atomic Opera way back when their lead guitarist, Jimmy Root, became the guitarist for Slipknot.
Hmm.
So it's so funny. So it's like I remember those days, and you know what? My life was really disharmony. There was a lot of chaos in my life back then when I was doing those things. So that's really interesting how you made that connection. I love that. And
Because,
now
like,
I'm
in
all
musicians, we can kinda see it, like, if I'm playing something very discordant, I can see the crowd reaction. If I play something more harmonious, like, immediate feedback into what I'm doing, and I can see the sound can actually affect the human behavior. And a lot of musicians, when
mhm,
we realize that, we take advantage of it, and we
mhm,
purposely create things to create that feeling to make that happen. And so, like,
I love
when you
that.
get really good, then you realize, like, you can do that with your voice.
Mm, mm.
So even when you're talking, if you're not singing, you could still do the same thing. And really good orators know that and they do it.
Interesting.
And so it's like when you
Interesting.
start to realize what you can do with sound and what you can do with your own voice, then you can be more in control of your life.
I love that because I want to take up singing, get better at singing. So that's really interesting because it also has to do with the throat chakra. Um, and now in my life, like I'm sober, I meditate, I journal, I do yoga. My life is very different and a lot more harmonious than it was when I was in my 20s.
Hmm. Well, I think it's really, really powerful when you have like the title of your book, Fabulous and Fuckable. Like you're very direct. It's like a lot of people are not direct. I would go back to like a Victorian.
Right.
Victorian, writing about sex, they go call it little death. That's very indirect. Very,
Hmm.
they don't go and say what it is. A lot
Exactly.
of people have, in poetry and stuff, we do it on purpose as a writer. Songs we sometimes have multiple layers of things. It's not so obvious because we're trying to get past censors. We're trying to get it out there, and so we'll have something and we'll hide it in the language. But when
Okay.
you actually are more direct, it's like, hey, I want to tell you what it is, you know. And I think it's brave to actually do that because a lot of times
Mhm.
people are scared of like if I directly say this, what's going to happen?
Exactly. And I do have moments of like that in my book. Like right now, the second chapter of the book is called Being Fuckable. And I'm like, maybe I need to move that towards the back because I'm talking about things in that chapter, like a peyote ceremony I did, a yoni facial, tantric massage, and masturbation. I'm like, I'm talking about this all in one chapter. I'm like, that might be a little bit too much for chapter two.
Yeah, get people to stay in the book before they leave the book. Yeah, it's kind of like our dilemma as a musician. Do I come off with something that's so weird that no one's going to stay in it? I have to
Exactly.
do something that's going to get somebody that's approachable and actually going to keep them in the groove without them leaving. And I'm in the middle of the song, I could do it. do a key change. I could do a tempo change. I could do some weird distortion, some weird sound that's not normal, and
Hmm.
maybe they'll still stay.
Yeah,
But some musicians actually will do that right at the beginning, and they say, "I don't care. This is what I want to do, and I'm just gonna do it."
right.
Because it's like if they my fans either gonna stay there or they're not.
Exactly. And once people, like, I think they know and expect that from you, that's different. But putting something like this out in the world that's so big and so bold and being like, fuck yeah, women can do whatever they want, especially at midlife. It's a perfect time to reinvent yourself and do all the things that you're passionate about. I'm like, yeah, maybe we need to talk about, those things a little bit further in the
Ease
book,
them in.
but we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. It's
We'll
like once people know who you are, like then you have a lot more leeway. Like Stephen King, once the people knew what he was doing, he could just do it. He's like he just that's what I'm known for. So it's not a new thing. I can do it. You know.
Exactly. Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how my journey unfolds, to see how the book unfolds, because I am in pre-launch, and so we're not launching the final copy until December 30th. So I have some time to kind of play around with things, move things around a little bit, get some feedback still to kind of see how I really want it to be out in the world. And then also with writing a book, like how I wrote it, 2 years ago is different from how I would write it today and how I would write it 5 years from now, but I am hoping that it will have impact on women and hopefully have some staying power where it's not just something that the flash in the pan and is gone tomorrow. I really hope that women find a lot of value in it and really take it to heart that, like, I have changed my life very quickly in a few years. So I know they can do it. Like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I am not special or unique in that regard. You just have to want it, and you have to, like, realize that there's different ways you can change and be open to it.
So that thing that's really positive because like I think that is the heart is just of creativity is to just give yourself that permission structure to do it. And
Exactly.
and what I like so we do have your links. We have your Instagram
Thank you.
and we have your website. Is that where people can like pre-order or order the book?
Yes, actually, on both, I have it's connected to my Beacons page, which you can also go directly there, which is beacons.ai/transform be courageous. And I am transform.be.courageous on Instagram and TikTok. So you
Mm-hmm.
can go there directly and order a pre sale copy of the book. And then I will also have it up on Amazon soon for
Cool.
pre sale. But yeah, and I also have like a nice little freebie on there as well. So it's for traveling and it's to inspire people to travel and to go out there and live their life. But that is just like a little quickie to kind of help spark, your imagination about what you want to do and getting you out there in the world. And then I have my coaching packages as well. But yeah, no, I'm just like super excited, and I really want women to know that they really can transform their life. Like 50 is just the beginning. Like if I can gray hair and think I'm sexy as fuck, so can you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's super. I mean, I just got rid of all my hair.
I love it. I love it. It really works. Like you really do look like Buddha. Like I love it. It totally works for you.
It's like I don't need hair club. I just decided, I'm gonna just get rid of it. Cause I just like I play with that and like, you know what? It's just I don't like it. I'm just gonna make it comfortable for me, and made a choice. But
Exactly.
I want to let people know these links are fully clickable within the
Mm-hmm.
podcast platforms that we're on. We were just on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. So within the podcast description, those links are fully clickable, and we do encourage people to click the links to get more information about the book. And it's a question in the future. Have you thought about doing an audiobook?
I have, and I am going to be doing one. I was advised to do those, to drop those separately, but yes, I'm going to do audio because that is so important for so many people. So I'm excited to be doing that as well. And
That's
the book will also be coming out in Spanish as well because I've been living in Mexico and now Colombia. Like I deeply love and am connected to the people here. So I want to be able to offer something back. And I wasn't really sure, like, was this going to flow in Spanish? So I am going to have some friends make sure that it is
it
that it
flows.
that yeah, that it flows, and that some things might need to be changed to make it culturally appropriate or for them to make that same connection with it.
Hmm.
But I am planning on doing Spanish and then maybe some other languages in the future too. So and AI can help me with all those
Well,
things.
yeah,
So
that's really cool. That's another really good use in terms of
yeah.
because it is a language engine. And
like
so
that.
if you want to go and be able to deal with other languages, that's kind of what it's built to do in the first place. But I want to thank you for being a guest on the Family Electric
Mhm.
podcast today, and hope they have a great rest of your day. And if you have other books that you put out in the future, come to us to kind of talk to us about it. And we have people come back on the show, especially creatives if they have other projects. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I feel like I learned so much being on your show. So I love it.
Thank you.
You're
Have a
welcome.
good day.